So we've got this weird object that we created in the last screencast, so now's a good time to talk about working planes. So this object is sitting in 3D space on a working plane, which is called Design Layer 1 because we haven't created any more. And think of that as like a tabletop or stage floor or something. So you can probably see that if I draw an object like a rectangle or something, it's kind of drawn it on this notional ground tabletop there. Likewise, when I drew the 3D polygon in the last tutorial, I could have drawn it in the, I can draw it here without going back to the top plan mode. Sorry, it's just a habit for me to go back to the top plan to draw the objects. You can see how that's kind of got quite a big area beyond it. If I go back, it's not quite so obvious. So I like going back to top plan to draw. So that's the layer plane. Layer planes can exist in Z space or in height above the ground. So for our theatres, we have lots of layer planes in Z heights, from 0 being the stage floor, where there be lighting bars or catwalks or fly floors or grid, or even negative Z values like stage pits and things. So if I want to create a new layer here, call it at 500, we'll just make a new layer which is 500 above. This elevation relative to the ground plane, if I make that 500, I'm not going to do anything more complicated than this just now. The same idea again with the layer plane as the active layer. Remember we talked about that before. Show snap modify those. Means if I draw anything on this layer, it will be drawn at this kind of, see, it's drawn a kind of above the ground plane. It's drawn at 500 above. See, hopefully that makes sense there. So that has a bot Z, if you like, extrude that out by 10 millimeters. See the Z? It has a Z value of 0 above the 500 layer. So that's kind of where things can get confusing. You need to keep an eye on your layers. So if you're just reading, if you're looking at your plan and you see that that's 0, you need to remember that that's 0 with reference to the height of the layer. If I change that object from the layer plane of 500 down to the design layer, you'll see it physically moving down because it's now got a Z. It's now got a Z of 0 with reference to the design layer which is on. So it's still got a 0, it just changed the layer that it was on. So that's layer plane. Screen plane is something we haven't talked about before. So screen plane, if up here we've got layer plane and screen plane. If I change the screen plane and I draw a rectangle again, you'll see that this time it's not drawing it on the floor, stage floor, table floor, whatever you think of. It's drawn it as if it's stuck to the back of the screen. And if I rotate round, it's still stuck. It doesn't follow the same rules as the stuff that's within the 3D world. We will use the screen plane in a later tutorial, in probably the next tutorial, the next task, as a way of creating a viewport. This object here, just to give you a little kind of sneak preview, if I go View, Create Viewport, it can ask me if I want to make the object, this 2D object, the viewport. If I say yes, then I don't think we've got a sheet layer set up yet. I'll just click through this, hopefully. Yeah, and you can see that looking through that rectangle at that piece of the drawing. So I'll just reverse back out of that using Command Z and get rid of this. So that's screen plane. So it doesn't matter what view I'm looking in, whether it's a custom view or any of my isometric views or front, back, left, anything. Screen plane is always glued to the back of the screen. And the last thing, if I wanted to draw an object which was say, built on top of this angled, this rake, this slope here, it would be very difficult for me to try and draw something and then tilt it over. So I can set a working plane. So within my 3D toolset again, set the working plane and hover across, and this is glowing. So this is now the working plane. Top toolbar, if I do look at working plane, it will rotate the object around so that the working plane is now parallel to the back of my screen. Meaning that if I draw a circle, maybe I should choose a radius one, and extrude it by 500. When I go back round again, you can see it's aligned itself with the top of the sloped object. Now I can save views, so if I want to save a view, so there's one I did before when I was playing around with this. If I want to save the view, I can well, I could look round at the top of that and then save the view as the angled top, and that appears in the views over here, save views. So I can look around at my object, like right isometric and front and angled top, but that's not to be confused with saving the working plane. If I go to draw on this, I will, should be in the layer plane. If I go to draw on this, you'll probably see that it's not drawing on the working plane, it's kind of way off. So what I need to do is I need to go and activate a palette that's not activated at the moment. So the palette I'm looking for here is the working planes palette. So my working plane here, I can add to the working planes at my disposal here. Put that away, and it means that if I draw anything on that angled plane there, then see it's nice and easy to draw things and extrude out from there. It becomes an option within my drop down. Okay, back to the layer plane again, and we're working on the floor or the Z or the stage value. So I've got the options now. I've got a new thing in there that I can go back to as many times as I want. So that can be really useful if you're doing, say you're working on a rake stage or something, or you've got some objects that you need to constantly go back to difficult angles, then the ability to save that and within your own specific working plane is really useful. Okay, the next tutorial will be a task, so look forward to that.